A very interesting couple of days here at the command center, shared in quite a few discussions. Looking forward to expand further on those, as I'm currently joined by media practitioner and former chief executive of the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us once again here today.
Thank you, Gazi. How are you?
Excellent. Well, excited today as a result of the fact that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has received all the National Assembly coalitions and is finally wrapping up those of the president. What can we look forward to in terms of the steps and processes so far?
I think that's good news, because it seems we are in the penalties and we're just about to see the last ball being kicked. And every game, no matter how exciting, comes to an end. And this one is about to wrap up. The anxiety, the context, and all that is all about done. It's just about to wait for the final results. That's what we have to do. Yeah.
And also looking at waiting for the final results, observer missions have made statements so far. And we've also noticed that with the local observer missions also giving their input into what is currently taking place. Your sentiments now appreciating the extensive contributions, but also highlighting the fact that the final report by the observer missions has not been officially made.
Yes, and I think for me, what is important is facts, and less opinion, so that we then can identify areas where we've done well and areas where we still need to improve. The good thing, even if you look at the SADC preliminary report, which got a lot of people actually very excited on either side of the aisle, it had a lot of good things in it, but unfortunately it also was laden with a lot of opinions, including some of the legal opinions. So what we need to do is to extract the factual issues and identify areas where it says Zimbabwe has done well. Because if you notice, it says if we compare to the previous period, this is better. But it then says we have concerns about this. And I think necessarily for me, nothing wrong with recommending certain things, but it's much more important to actually focus on the facts. What are the facts? What needs to be done going forward? Because SADC as a body in particular is interested in using the electoral process to advance nations forward. But then again, if you then create a perception that you could be one way or the other fueling some political tensions, then perhaps the position of SADC becomes compromised. That said, within that same report, you had a lot of good things within that report, and perhaps that's what we need to take and then say, how do we move forward from this? And then the local observers, as you said, have generally said pretty much what everyone has said. Generally, the period of voting was peaceful, was calm, and even SADC says 90% of polling stations observed were orderly and peaceful. So I think that's a good thing.
And then also appreciating some of the critiques that were given. Let's touch on quite a few of those. We consider the Forever Association of Zimbabwe. Critiques being made there that there was elements of intimidation and and over-involvement rather into the electoral process. Your sentiments around that, but more importantly, maybe some clarity around the Forever Association of Zimbabwe.
I think part of it is also communication. Part of it is also an understanding what is an exit poll, what is an entry poll. And I also think that even for Forever Associates of Zimbabwe, it is also a learning point to say when you are doing something, and exit polls are common around the world, but then if you do it in a particular way, and perhaps because maybe it's the first time, it will be done in haphazard, some of it is exit, some of it is entry and all that. And I'm hoping that association as well has a lot to learn from some of the critiques that have come from this report as well. But again, if you look at the primary voting pattern, certainly if you look at it from the local council and then if you look at it from the parliamentary council, it remains what element was free will and was intimidation, because it looks like where the areas where the opposition party is known to be strong, they pretty much emerged very strong. Where the ruling party, ZANU-PF, is known to be strong, they also emerged strong. So the patterns that emerged seem to suggest that the structure of the country and the economic framework of the country have outcomes that favored particular demographics depending with the feeling of that person in that specific demographic.
Now let's come to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. acknowledging that it is an independent commission, right? And in that independence, also highlighted the concern for the delay of ballot papers being made available. And also they came up with a condition to give a 12-hour moratorium for all voters to be able to go and cast their vote. The critique that comes there now is on accessibility of voters during that particular period, but at the same time, concern that could come up from there. Has the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission also ensured that despite the technical issue that took place, voters could still ensure that they could cast their vote for their representatives?
The good thing is ZEC accepted, and everyone else said this was really an administrative challenge. You know, that was, in my view, something that should not have happened. But the good thing is that ZEC, by 11 o'clock, they came to and acknowledged that, look, we have had delays. And then they then said, however, areas where voting has been delayed will be given a 12-hour extension. And then the proclamation then came and then said, these are the areas then extended by a day because things did not go according to plan. So that you cannot fault, and I noticed that even observers have noted that yes, there was a problem. The good thing is that they came up and then acknowledged that problem, and but importantly, then said, how do you rectify this? Of course, the others would say, but perhaps there's one ward that was not accounted for and all that. But that's neither here nor there. You know, will you ever get 100%? If you get 99%, is it not an A plus? Is not A plus and all that? And I think for me, what is important is how do we build a base that essentially seems to be on an upward trajectory. Identify the problems as we have had and we have acknowledged and say, because there will be other elections, let's work on improving these gaps. Let's work on information gaps. Let's make sure that there is an understanding that we have in harmonized elections, we have three things. We have the local ones, and they come first because it's the ward. And then we have the parliamentary, because it's a constituency, it necessarily comes second. And then because everything must be collated and verified along the way, including, from what I understand, as a manual process, necessarily it will take time. But anyway, we said it. Within 5 days, we will communicate. So that was communicated. But I think what we need to do is continuously communicate it, because we must also understand there's anxiety here. Right. There are contests. This is a contest. So I think we need to continuously communicate, so that we don't create conditions where people are anxious and think maybe something untoward is happening. Right.
Yeah. And then also appreciating some of concerns that were regarded as bias of the public broadcaster during the electoral process. In the instances where you had candidates who intentionally chose to not want to be part of the election programming coverage that was being made available, how then do you manage that particular dynamic in being able to ensure that equitable coverage to all political participants was there?
I hope, maybe let me start, since I've also been part of you guys as a public broadcaster. I think it's also a point to learn. Right. How do we, as a public broadcaster, communicate what we are going to do in time? How do we build that national consensus? But also, from what you're saying, how do we also build a better understanding by all contestants that this is a media ecosystem? And there are other broadcasters. I come from IFM in Shamani. There are others. There's ZTN. And all that. How do we, as an industry, also work out on rules to say when we are going to go as media into elections, this is how we are expected to conduct ourselves, and when this is how we improve. I noticed you guys towards the end you actually did very well.
We definitely did try our best to be able to make sure that we met our mandate to the public.
You atoned for some of the challenges.
We definitely did try to make sure we atoned for those challenges. But what also did come up as a cause of concern were also issues around misinformation. Yes. Disinformation. We live in a technologically advanced world now with regards to communication. So many messages that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission had to denounce. So many messages also that were false in terms of contestants that had won. How then, through the media platforms that are there, do we manage some of the malinformation that is being put forward by the public through social media?
Balancing speed and responsibility has become the key. You know, I was asking a colleague, why is it that you see an article and you feel without verifying, I must post it? And then And then the answer was, because everyone wants to be a star. They want their 15 minutes of fame. But let not fame come at the expense of factuality, objectivity, professionalism, truthfulness. And so I think that balance must be maintained, because you must verify. These days, when you see something on WhatsApp, no matter how you think is correct, wait. Just take a second to wait. Do was lift up a phone call. And
we're here doing today. We're waiting for the assemblies. A lot of results have been given out through various platforms. How important is it for the electorate, but more importantly,
it's credibility? It's just wait for the rightful person to say, this is what has happened. If you believe, let's not forget, in the last elections, the matters actually then finally got decided in court.